Hello, welcome all you beautiful people. Welcome, and welcome some more. Wherever you're watching this, wherever you will be watching or listening to this from, my name is Amaya Victoria. You are listening to Wise Woman Podcast. I welcome you to this show today. We have a very interesting guest with us today, Sharifah Hardie, who does a myriad of things, and all of them is about service for the people, one way or another. So I'm going to read a little bit about my dear friend here, and then we're going to discuss. We're going to discuss. And we're going to see what happens with the discussion. It's been my experience, and this is really in life also, not just in this type of modality, that when people really talk, there's a whole lifting up, a whole connection to honesty that happens without having to put on effect for it. And that's what we really need now in our society, in my humble opinion, is that discuss, and I mean, not disgust. That's enough of that has been going on, believe you me. But the real getting beyond the belief that we have nothing in common, and realizing that we all have so much in common in the joys, in the suffering, in the emotional range, and in the ways of thinking. And places that we don't have common ground, well, those are the places where we build a new world, isn't it? So that's what my dear friend here is really all about. So I'm going to read a little bit of this structured stuff we have here, which is important. And then we're going to see where we all go in the next 45 minutes to an hour. Sharifah Hardie is a business consultant, author, ordained minister, spiritual advisor, talk show host, producer at Bizzy Girl Productions, candidate, now hear this one, candidate for 2024 California State Senate, District 33, president of the Black Chamber of Commerce, Long Beach area, and an influencer. That's an interesting word. I think I'm going to maybe step off of that place. Sharifah, it's me. Sharifah Hardie is host of Ask Sharifah videocast and podcast, as well as the Roundtable Talk Show, which is a very interesting show. I've been on a few times myself. The author of Signs You Might Be an Entrepreneur, How to Discover the Entrepreneur in You, and the ebook, Everything You Need to Know About Social Media Marketing. So she is the woman to go to, which I do go to, because I know a lot about computers, but that is just not my forte. Sitting in front of this screen for way too long, I feel like somebody's taking my brains and they're floating in air. So it's not just that part of what she does, our dear friends here, it's all of it. I think this is a very good lesson in being multifaceted, really, and not letting just one way govern, or letting that one way lead to many other ways, perhaps. So welcome to Wise Woman Podcast. How are you today?
I am excellent. I am excited. I thank you for the opportunity. Yes, you've been on my show. I've been on your show now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Sharifah Hardie.
So, thank you, Sharifah.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a very intelligent woman, and have a Gemini moon. You think that words would really be easy for me, but for some reason, maybe because I was a premature birth and my brain's got a little squash, I have this little like ADHD thing or something where I have a hard time with certain vowels that run into each other. Mm-hmm. So you might have to say it for me again before we're over on the show here. It has nothing to do with my love for you nor my respect for your name. Would you tell me the definition for your name again? Because I had asked you once before.
Sharifah is Arabic, and it means honest or of honor. So back in the towns, before they had all these other degree people, when they wanted to go to a wise person, if it was a masculine, it was the Sharif. and the feminine would be the Sharifah. This is the person that you can go to, talk to, speak to about what's going on in your life. So also the direct translation would be someone who is honest or of honor. So that's where it comes from.
So why don't we talk about direct connection to wisdom, or you put it another way, because you have influencer here, and I thought that was a really fascinating word that you put into your bio. That place where you go to someone who has that wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
You should talk to me about, because everything you do here, and I know for a fact, I know you somewhat, I think well enough to know that all of this is under the influence of that wise service, that truth, in not a harsh way, but the truth.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, to me, you have to be honest with people. You have to be able to tell people the truth if you want them to be successful. And that's one of the things that I do, whether it's personal or in business. I mean, just being a business consultant, one of the things I do is I go to websites and I analyze them and I make recommendations on how you can modify the website to be more successful and more profitable. And it surprises so many people, the tweaks that I make or the recommendations, because they will say, well, hundreds of people, all of my friends looked at my website and they said, oh, it's nice, it's great, it's wonderful. And you look at it and you say, make these changes, make these tweaks, and things will change. And that's because I have to tell people the truth about what it takes to become profitable. And most people who look at the website, they're not looking for those things. They're just your friends. They love you. They want you to succeed, but they don't have the expertise and the knowledge to be able to say, oh, okay, if you do this, you will be more profitable with your website. And so because I've been doing this since 1994, when I built my first website, that's where the influencer came from. It came from my brand, Ask Sharifah. I always tell people, no matter what it is with a www, if you have questions or being online, just ask me, Ask Sharifah.
Let's talk about for a moment, because I want to bring this in the end result of everything that you do here, to how people will be served by this, not just in profitability, because profitability is not just money. Profitability to me is equal to prosperity.
Right.
I've gotten to not like the word abundance, because it's gotten so connected to that desperate need for money.
Right.
The profitability, and therefore websites. Let's talk about your show, the show that I was on. See, without my glasses, there's just no use in doing any of this. Really. The round table talk show that you do once a day, actually.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, the Roundtable Talk Show is my passion. But one of the things that you mentioned, I completely agree with, is the idea of this abundance. I mean, there are so many people who are just seeking abundance because, like you said, they want to make more money, and their focus, it can be from a place of desperation to get that money. But for me, I talk about profitability and help people with shows like the Roundtable Talk Show, because too often people such as yourself, not that you do this, but who have such big hearts, they forget the financial aspect of what they do. And when you serve mankind, whatever you do, whatever blessing you are, it should come back to you tenfold. So when I see people who are just giving and giving and giving, to me, that shows an imbalance of their ability to give and receive. So they should be able to reap the rewards of what they're doing, even though they're not doing it strictly for financial reasons. So one of the things that I do on my daily talk show, the Roundtable Talk Show, is I sit down with 5 guests per day in an organic roundtable conversation. And we come together to discuss what's going on in the world, business, marketing, and how can we help each other. So I've done over 200 episodes. We're almost at 250 episodes now. The 30th of March marked our 1-year anniversary, but I've seen people walk away with new clients, new customers, books sold, orders, new friends is a wonderful way of networking. But if we help each other, if there's a missing piece, we can work together to say, hey, Amaya, if you make this change based on my experience, you will be more successful. And at the end of the day, if we're in business, that's really what we're looking for, is to build a business that is successful, as well as our personal lives that we're happy with. That's what we really want to do.
Because I have done that, where I have felt that my prices should not be in a certain place because people might not have been able to afford me.
Mhm.
What would you say to something like that, particularly where we are now in this world?
Uh,
What would you say to this?
I would say, and I've always said for years, and believe me, I was laid off 8 times, especially after the economic upheaval in 2008. I went through a process of being laid off time after time after time. So I know what the economy is like, but I also know that it's still a mindset, because in the midst of everything that's going on, you still have iPhones that are selling. You still have people buying the latest gadgets, the best cars, the top of the line. And the way I always look at it is that when someone says my prices may be too high, I always ask the question, too high for whom? Because in a certain neighborhood, a certain area, that price may be way, way, way too high for those people. But then if you go into another neighborhood or another demographic, let me say, those prices may be way too low. And if you're not pricing or charging what they're used to in that area for those specific people, they won't even consider you. And too often we believe that we've lost a sale or a customer or a client because our prices were too high. It could be other reasons. Maybe their prices were too low. Maybe everybody else was charging $500 a month and you said, okay, well, I know money's tight, because that's the mindset. I'm just going to charge $20. So the person receiving that quote can go, okay, this person is 500, this person is 600, this person is 350, and you're $20? What does that mean? What kind of reflection is that on you? That's why when you look at top companies like your Bentleys of the world, they don't have to, in any economy, there's still going to be a Bentley.
And she stopped right there. I was waiting for another, like Bentley. Okay. All right.
Yes.
So I want to turn this, well, let's see what goes when we continue to talk about that. Carolyn Me said the same thing to the healers and the teachers. She said, that's enough of that.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be paid what you're worth. That the healers and the teachers of the spiritual bent have this whole idea, and so do the people, that you're not supposed to pay for these things, right? Now, in your what you do, because even though you sound like you do come from a very high business bent, you're also an ordained minister. You're also a spiritual visionary. You have that woven through all your service here. Let's turn this now to as our times here go to a new way, what you would say, first of all, not just to the entrepreneurs, but to the people who are having to shift their business paradigm to fit. And then we're going to shoot off to a totally opposite or totally different discussion about spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Because I believe that's where we should go today,
We'll go wherever you want to go, Amaya.
Right. So the first thing is there anything people really need to do to change the business paradigm they're in?
Individually, is that the question?
Individually, collectively, what's going on here in our world with all this?
Well, first of all, one of the things that I've seen is a complete shift, especially over the last year during a global pandemic. You have more entrepreneurs created, and there are always more entrepreneurs created in times of stress or upheaval than any other time. There are more millionaires created during recessions than any other time. And the reason the reason that is because people get comfortable, right? So if you're at your job and you've been at your job for 15 years or 20 years, what is going to make you leave that situation and go towards entrepreneurship? Usually, typically, there isn't anything. So something has to happen, just like basic science, something has to come in and change the trajectory of the current path that you're on. And just like I said myself, I was laid off 8 times. I've never been fired, but like I talk about in my first book, God kept closing the door. If it wasn't for God closing that door, I would be an employee. I never intended to be an entrepreneur. I really wanted to be an employee. I felt secure. Nothing says I love you like direct deposit. So that's the way I wanted to go. And then life happened. I was working for a company in El Segundo, California. They closed their office, relocated to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Another company in El Segundo closed that office, relocated to Chatsworth, California. So it was these different changes and those doors that kept closing that forced me to go into entrepreneurship. So that's why I understand this journey. So over the last year, you have so many people who have been working corporate jobs. All of a sudden, they're self-employed. They're entrepreneurs because they're forced into it, but they're using this as an opportunity. So many more entrepreneurs are becoming successful because they're working for themselves. They're using their creativity, and that is definitely a blessing.
I was just thinking that last statement. I said, well, what do they say? What is it those in the hard times get going? What is that statement?
I know exactly what have to come to me.
Yeah,
but
right. They get going, and really, the pressure cooker on the coal is causing diamonds to be created. People
yes,
are being like you were with every door that got slammed, even though I'm sure it was very painful for a while and frightening, that there was an ignition internally of that indomitable soul and spirit that caused inspiration,
yes.
right?
Yes, and it was built on my faith too, because even when I was homeless and I lost everything, lost all the clothes, all my shoes, everything I owned, because it was all in the car. All my clothes were in the car, and then they repossessed the car. So I was sleeping at the studio where we were doing an IPO at night, and all my clothes were in the car. Then they repossessed my car, but I didn't get down. I didn't get suicidal. Every step just increased my faith. I would walk and literally say, okay, God, I know you didn't bring me this far just to bring me this far. And that was one of the main things that had always helped me get through any of this, because it's like I've been through too much. I know it wasn't just all for nothing, all for naught. And so I use that in order to help me in situations. And then I also inspire other people to utilize that in their situations, because my faith, we talk about being an ordained minister, a spiritual advisor, is that I truly believe in my heart, not just what I've read, not just what I've studied. I believe that it's God's pleasure to give us the kingdom. He wants us to have everything in this world so that we can be in the world, yet not of the world.
Right.
And so when I'm struggling, it's like, okay, this is a challenge, but eventually I will get to the promised land.
Now, I just watched the documentary. There's a documentary out on Tina Turner.
Mm-hmm.
And I just watched it not last night, the night before. And at the end there, they're showing her. She said something she said many things. But one thing she said that made me smile was, I didn't my career did not revamp. This was my new career.
Mm-hmm.
It was about Tina Turner. And she had
Yes.
always wanted to fill the stadiums like that. Even at the end there, she's had some very severe physical issues. And they show her walking because they have a musical going on about her life, and standing in front of everyone on the stage, and then just Tina, Tina, Tina. And we both know that she came up, and she even says that my life was awful.
Mm-hmm.
It was awful. But to continue to go no matter what, to continue to move no matter what, to sit still and pray and wait. Sometimes we have to wait, but not to lose hope. Do you feel like, do you sense that all these things that you have written, all these things, all these creations that you help to lead is for that, so people won't give up hope?
I believe that is not only so that people won't give up hope. I believe it's an example to give people hope, because one of the things that you mentioned is me running for Senate in 2024. I'm
Yes.
running for Senate after my campaign, my run for Long Beach City Council. And that surprised so many people because I never expressed the interest in politics. I've never been a part of politics. I've never surrounded myself with politicians. So people said, where did this come from? And so my response was, for me, it's not about politics, it's about people. Right. So a lot of what's going on in the world, we can talk about the politicians, but many of these changes we can do on a local level, but we also have to keep in mind many of life's woes are symptoms of our society and what we're going through. What I mean by that is, so many people talking about our mental health issues, homelessness issues. Okay, my focus is on creating jobs with a living wage, because most Americans right now are about one paycheck away from being homeless. They're about one paycheck away from, losing everything. If there's an emergency, if there's an accident, there's some expense that they hadn't planned for. Most of us don't have savings accounts. So those issues are symptoms of the stress and anxiety, especially over the last year, that we are feeling as a people. So the first thing I always talk about, and thank you for expressing that, is hope. Until a person has hope, it doesn't matter what you give them. You can give them all the training in the world, you can give them all the housing in the world, but till they actually believe and they see the hope that their life can be different or better than what it currently is, they're not going to be able to make that change for themselves. It's been proven in research and study after study, usually the difference in emergency situations on whether someone survives that situation or not is the survivors will tell you they believed, they knew that they would get out of this situation. There was something in them that made them just keep going, because they're like, I know I can make it. I know there's something on the better on the other side. And too often what happens is we just simply give up. We say, you know what, I'm 45 years old. All my life sucked. All my life, everything went wrong. And then we continue on that energy. That's what we'll receive. That's what will manifest. But people who have amazing lives, their energy is different. Their positivity is different. Their hope for tomorrow is different. I was laughing the other day because I had a stressful day and I had so many things that I wanted to get done, and some of them were delayed. Actually, a package for my birthday, which was yesterday, that I was waiting on, the plane, FedEx or whatever it was, had been delayed. And so this package that should have arrived on Saturday didn't actually wind up arriving until Tuesday. I was like, it's not going to make it. It's not going to get here. And when I kind of get stressed, I'm like, okay, let me just go to sleep. Let me just take a nap and then wake up, because I know tomorrow will be a better day. And so often when we're going through our situations, we don't look and say, well, tomorrow will be better. Tomorrow will be different. It'll be okay. Everything will be all right. We just are in that moment, just so anxious and stressed and upset and mad about what's going on, that we can't see tomorrow. We can't see the hope. And that's really what I like to remind people of, is that no matter what you're going through right now, in time, this too shall pass. And I think we forget that as a people.
When we stay in that moment, we forget to put it down and let the next 24 hours happen, which is
Yes.
totally different than what we were in the day before. You said something to me in a phone conversation not so long ago. You said, one thing, if I do nothing else right, I do boundaries well. I'm going to
Yes.
be like the queen of boundary with sleep. That's what you told me.
Yes.
On the phone, that, you just know when it's time to go to sleep.
Yes.
And that's just the way it is. Let's go to sleep.
Yes.
Rest. And I had a mentor used to say that to me, go to bed. That'll be the last of those 24 hours.
Yes.
And you'll get up again, and perhaps it'll be different. Maybe more the same, but you can walk through anything, really, most anything. There are
Yes.
difficult things in our world. Sometimes things don't pass. We live with certain things, in our realities. Like myself, having had to live with chronic pain for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it still may never pass. But, you know, I had low back surgery. I had to have it. And I may still have, even though I go to physical therapy and I do yoga, hey, people have said to me, I don't know how you live with that. And I look at them, I say, well, what is the alternative?
Mm-hmm.
The
Right.
alternative is to leave, right?
Right.
So you're actually talking about, as we segue to finding common ground with each other.
Mm-hmm.
If we can talk about the last 2.5 years of rift that began, that big tear that actually started before COVID
Mm-hmm.
or right in front of COVID, way before that. It's been going on for generations, just whispers and being thrown under the rug again and again, where the tear happened. And now we have to find a different type of common ground. We have to find another place to stand together
I
in
mean,
all different ways, in our individuality in that.
I hear you to a certain extent, but this is the way I look at it. It's only a certain word that stood out to me when you said we have to find a certain way, right? I believe that we have to believe that there's a different way. And I
Okay.
think that's what's changing for people as a society, because we have lived thus far with the mentality that there isn't enough. So many people have lived with this thought that of lack and limitations, and more people are opening up and awakening to the realization that there's always been more than enough. There's more than enough for everybody, you know. And so when we have that understanding and that knowledge that there is more than enough, then we open our hands a little bit. We let things go a little bit. We release that need to have to hold on to everything and just keep it to ourselves, because maybe tomorrow I won't have enough of this. They said, you know, look at the examples. They said Jesus, when he came home every day, he turned his pockets out. Everything that he had at the end of the day was for someone else. So he gave that money away to the poor. And that's one of the things that I personally try to do as well. I look at, okay, well, maybe this is for someone else. Someone else needs this more than I do. So if we just look at it like we don't have enough, then that's what the reflection of our society. But when individuals within the society realize and truly understand that there's more than enough to go around, and open up to the belief and the knowledge that they too can have anything they want. They can have their heart's desire. God says, it is my pleasure to give you your heart's desire, to give you the kingdom. But how do you get it? Asking you shall receive. Most people don't ask for the things that they want. And when they ask but amiss, meaning that they've asked, but they truly don't believe that they're going to get it. Now, for me, someone who is a daddy's girl, as I say, I always knew my father was going to come through for me. Whatever I wanted, whatever I needed, my father was going to deliver. I look at my father in heaven the same way. If I ask for something, why would he not give his child that thing which I asked for? So when we understand that there's more than enough, there's plenty to go around, and that we can truly have our heart's desire, the way we operate changes. One of the other things I always say is that magic and miracles happen in the moment. They happen now. We create them right now. And if you've ever read A Course in Miracles, it tells you that the most, if you truly need the miracle to occur, it's based on the intent. It's based on what you need that miracle for at that moment. Just like a parent, a mother whose child is stuck under a car, that mom will lift that car. But if tomorrow she needs to lift a car, that is not going to happen, because her baby is no longer under that car. But when you truly, truly, truly need a miracle, the world, the angels, people that you never thought would ever come to your aid will come to help you, if there's a true need and intent for that miracle to occur.
And if it's part of the whole, it has to line up with everything else. It can be not conflict. The Course in
Mhm.
Miracles also states, and I paraphrase, that there are no large or small miracles. All miracles are equal. And if a miracle is not happening, there's something askew. It's the other
There's
way.
not time.
Yeah, yeah, it's the other way around. So you're speaking about people believing in this common ground.
Mhm.
When I said we need to find it, it's taking that belief and not over analyzing it, reaching out and letting that common ground be shown between us.
Mhm.
You know, not so long ago, we had something where we found out we had common ground once we finally talked
Right.
through something, right? Particularly now with the emotional range that is happening. I was very struck yesterday when you thanked everyone for coming and you spoke from your heart about this last several years and about loneliness. I
Right.
was very touched because perhaps I'm the only one. I don't think so. I think most people don't. They assume that other people don't feel these things because they're
Right.
not speaking about it. They're not talking about it, you know, about what this, we want to stay in a positive, but this last year has humbled us also,
Right.
has brought us to another position in the sense of you being an ordained minister, which by the way, you're sounding like one right now. Thank you. And also a spiritual advisor. Shall we talk about the love of the spirit or your love for God and spirit and your way of um, bringing to the world your spiritual vision or your intuition or your form of channeling per se?
For me, I became an ordained minister in 2004. But for me, it's
Why
been
did you become? What happened that brought you to that place?
because I was getting very frustrated with these things called humans and with people. And I said, I don't understand. I don't get it. Why don't they understand that God loves them? You know, and I felt like if they truly believed in God, there were so many things that they wouldn't do. And then at that point, I was really on that my people suffer from not lack of knowledge. My people suffer from lack of knowledge. And I want to just give people this knowledge and this information of how much God truly loves them. And over time, I kind of moved away from that mainly because I felt like, okay, a lot of people do know, but then they just do whatever they do anyway. But I wanted to be able to provide some type of information to people about how to make their lives better. And actually, because one thing that I don't like, and that's why I love talking to you, Amaya, because you're always positive, you're always real. Like you can deal with a negative situation in a positive way. There are other people that you just listen to them and they just complain and complain and complain about everything that's going wrong in their life and everybody who did them wrong and who always doing wrong. And it's like, it's so draining. So I wanted to be able to bring God's love to people. But even with that said, all my life, I've been able to hear God speak. I remember I went to a service at a huge non-denominational church in Culver City. And I was there, and this man walked up to me and he told me he was a psychic doctor. And this is really when I started going into the metaphysical, and it's happened since then. And this gentleman, he just walks up to me, he starts reading me and telling me all this information about me and my family and different things, which I didn't like because there
You
are
yes.
right, there are rules to life. And he
Right.
just interrupted my boundaries. But then he asked me, he said, what type of meditation do you do? And I said, I don't do any meditation. He's like, no, what kind? What technique do you use? Do you do this? Do you do that? And I said, I don't do any type of meditation. He's like, you have to do something because I'm looking at your energy. I'm looking at your aura. And I can tell you in this congregation, not just the people in this room, it's a huge congregation. He said, it's about 10,000 people, and I can guarantee you only about 3 people in this entire congregation have your abilities. So you have to be able to do something. What type of technique? He's naming all these techniques. And I said, I'm getting, at this point, I'm getting irritated because first of all, I don't know you, and second of all, you just walked up to me and started telling me all these things I didn't ask you. Maybe I didn't want to know those things, but you just offered them, and then you're still talking to me. So I said, look, I do not do any technique at all. I said, I talk to God. I talk to God. He talks to me. I talk, he talks, we talk. And that's really my way. I just hear, and it's not always like a physical hearing. but I received the information like so many people do. They just don't believe it and they just don't act on it. So I wanted to help other people wake up to the knowledge that they don't necessarily have to do all these different techniques and meditation in a certain way at a certain time for a certain length of time in order for them to be able to receive the information that they need, because it's been written since the beginning of time. I was raised Muslim, then went non-denominational, but whether you look at the Quran, whether you look at the Bible, there's so many instances of when God spoke and the miracles that occurred that were happening during everyday times and not during some specific meditation.
So how, who is this new woman who speaks to me now? How did becoming an ordained minister, a spiritual advisor, serve you? I want that question first. And then we're going to talk about not just in business, but the faith, the belief, and now the service to the world. Because that's what you're talking to me about in this bio is I do this and I do this, or I have these things, and this is what I like to do with them, and this is how I proceed over here, and I'm going to proceed running for in the politics. And you said it, and I'm glad you said it, because I was going to say, but wait, is this for the politicians or for the people? You know, but it's for the people. It's for the people. It's for the people.
Right.
All of it. And you're part of those people.
And they're part of me.
And they're part of you.
Right. So for me, everything I do is because mainly I feel like it's giving back, because there were so many people along the way who helped me out. There were so many mentors along the way who helped me out. I wouldn't be where I am today without some of those people. So I just needed other ways and look for other ways to be able to assist others, because we talked about being lonely and feeling alone. And so many people feel alone in the middle of a crowded room because it's something that's keeping them from connecting and feeling that connection with other people. So I just try to help them remove whatever blockages they have to help them to connect to their best self, because their best self is there. The best network they have, the community is there. There's some mindset shift that has to happen in order for them to, as they say these days, live their best life. So that's just my focus, because I have so many people who are frustrated and they're struggling and they don't know how to do or what to do. And I'm like, okay, let's go back to the beginning, because I truly believe if you took two people or any one person, whether they had ever heard of the Bible or the Quran in their lives, and you put them on a deserted island, there's something in them that gives them the will to succeed. It's going to say, Amaya, it's kind of cold. You might want to cut down some trees and make you a little tent. You may not know the word for it, a little hut, but there's something in you that knows that you have to get covered. There's something in you that says, Amaya, that sound is your stomach grumbling. You might want to go get you a pole and get you some leaves or whatever you need and make you a fishing pole so you can eat. But that to me is the voice of God. That spirit in you saying you need to survive. And everything we have is in us. But what happens is too often we don't believe. We don't believe that we're enough. We don't believe that we have enough. But we were given enough in us for us to survive on this earth. And I believe that. And I know that to be true, because if not, we wouldn't be able to survive. And to me, that would be an unfair God that puts us in a situation that didn't allow us to survive or for survival. And to me, that's just simply not the God I serve.
My daughter and I were talking one day, something had gone on. And what I said something to her, I said, I realized, I don't know if I'd been on a Zoom meeting. I said, I realized a lot of the pain that people carry is they don't feel included.
Mhm.
They don't feel included. So that's funny, Mom. I was just talking to one of her friends, and he was crying because he was so glad we brought him soup because he was sick. Because he said, I never felt included
Mhm.
in anything in my life. I know this time where it looks like we're all being pushed back and separated is a time to find inclusion.
Mhm.
Cohesion, really, as one of my friends calls it. And through the higher way of thinking, through what we call God, was thinking as you're speaking the parable of Christ on the water with the fishes and the bread.
Mhm.
That parable of one fish, one piece of bread suddenly begins to feed the whole population.
Mhm. But it still starts with the belief. Everything
That's right.
starts with the belief that you have the ability to do it. I mean, when you talk about just look at walking on the water, Peter's walking on the water. He didn't start to sink until he looked down. But as long as he had faith and was going and walking, he was walking on the water. And
Mhm.
that's what happens with so many of us is that we we actually start to succeed and then we look down and we ask ourselves, who am I to be successful? Who am I to succeed? You know, you mentioned, and I love the example that you gave about your friend and him being sick and he wanted soup and you gave him soup and it was emotional for him because he didn't feel included. But I would gather if I look at that and I try to find the history, it's again why I'm a talk show host. And people say, Sharifah, you're a wonderful interviewer because they tell me their journey and I go, okay, well, this is what happened to you. But there's some point that led you on that journey. So the young man with the soup is not only about him feeling included. There's something in his history. There's something in his story where he needed something or someone to be there for him, and they simply weren't. Now, he may have asked them to be there. He may not have asked them to be there. That's just like a parent who's never home. That child still needs that parent, but because the parent is never home, that child has to adapt, and they begin to adapt. And what they hear in their mind, even without knowing this person, is that if I need it or if I'm going to make it happen, it's up to me. The cavalry is not coming in to save me. They're
Right.
not going to come
The
and bring
Marines
me
are not
food.
hitting the beach
Yes,
anytime soon. Yes.
yes. So people who are used to being given that soup, they don't have that mentality because just like I was saying about my father who always whatever I want, my father to this day, he'll call and he'll say, how you doing? Do you have enough money? And I laugh because I tell people I will never have enough money. I don't care if I had $8 billion. When people say, do you have, no, I don't. I need a little bit more. Give me a little bit more. But in my mind, it's because I'm used to people being there and taking care of things if I need them to be.
So talk to me, since you brought that up, talk to me what brought you as a child into this, maybe not directly into this work, but how you came up in your life.
I was raised Muslim, which it was very structured. You know, we did Ramadan, which is fasting for 30 days. So it's interesting when I talk to some of my friends and they're like, oh, I'm gonna do a fast. I'm like, okay, I've been fasting since I was a kid, you
Yeah.
know, for 30 days. So it was a very structured. One of the reasons that I got away from it had less to do with the religion because it really all the stories, they all translate the same. You know, what I didn't like is there were so many things that were un-Islamic. You know, it's un-Islamic to sing. It's un-Islamic to wear gold. It's so many different, you know, things. And I was like, well, doesn't God have something else to do? Like besides worry about
Isn't God
me?
joyful? Doesn't God like
Right.
pretty things? You
Yes.
know, right.
Yes. And then they were so adamant that everything was done in Arabic. And I have nothing against Arabic. It's a wonderful language, but I felt that I'm American. And so when I speak to God, especially if I'm speaking to him from my heart, I have to speak to him in my native tongue. And that's what people don't get, even when they talk about, oh, well, this person is speaking in tongues. Okay, but the gift of part of the gift of speaking in tongues was when you were in a foreign land and you needed to speak to someone who had a different tongue. God would create a miracle so that all of a sudden, Amaya, if you spoke Italian and I spoke French and we didn't understand each other, we can both speak in that native tongue so we can communicate and have a conversation. And so many people don't even understand half of these things. So I felt like, okay, if I'm American and my native tongue is English, if I'm speaking in Arabic, then I'm not really speaking from my heart. I'm just reciting words that I have memorized that somebody told me this means this and this means that. And I wanted to have what a lot of the Christians call a closer relationship with God. And so that's why I said, okay, let me become more non-denominational. So I went to the non-denominational way And then now I tell people I'm a knower. I went to being a believer and believing that there is a God to knowing that there is a God. I've seen too much happen that cannot be explained
Right.
any other way
Right.
than yes.
Yes, that's correct. You were speaking, and now let's see if I can grab that question again because I was listening to you talk about. Let's talk about. I believe you were brought up in a larger family, correct?
I have one brother, one sister.
Oh, I don't know why every time I look at you, I see like a big family. Every time I
My
look at you.
my mother has 8 brothers and sisters.
Okay,
So maybe that's it.
that's probably it. I'm looking at the ancestry back there. You know, our
Yes.
ancestry does affect us. And
Yes.
there's great sacredness. I always say I'm Jewish by birth, universal by law.
Hmm.
And my background in a very positive way, I can look at all the other stuff, you know, the love for suffering that as a Jewish person we like to do, but at the same time, the basic mysticism that's in that religion. And then that I took it like you and I married it with other ways of being because I figured it had to be in one stew. It just was better for me. The love for family, you know, I'm sure your family was not perfect. No family is. But my feeling about you is that you have this innate sense of love of family or for family. We all do, but yours feels to me be very, very strong.
Yes.
Would you like to speak on that for a moment? And can we somehow turn it now as we're coming I don't know, if I don't put my glasses on, I have the illusion that I can see without my glasses. Forgive me. If I do this till I'm 90 years old. Uh, we have a few moments here. The love for family, the love that comes into being an entrepreneur, the love that comes into being a spiritual channel, the love that comes in being an ordained minister, an author, a talk show supporter, host, whatever this is. The love for family, for human family, for four-legged family, for the family of earth, the family for heavens. If you can say just a few things before we lead on out today, what would you say about anything, everything, all of it?
I would say 2 things on that question that you asked. Number one, I was definitely raised with a greater sense of family. Growing up until I actually left the house and got married and had my own family. I grew up with 2 of my aunts that lived in the house with us. My grandmother lived in the house with us.
That's
So
why
there
it's
was
the larger family, yes.
right family and extended family. My cousins live with us. You know, we just always grew up together like brothers and sisters. So it was never just what is your immediate family. And it's actually kind of funny because there's a joke in our family. My grandmother, everyone called my grandmother Umi, and Umi is Umi. Umi is Arabic for mother. And so everyone called my grandmother Umi. And so my dad would ask sometime, he's like, where's your Umi? And we said, oh, she's in the room reading. And he go in there and she wasn't there. And he come back. He's like, no, not your grandmother. Where's your mother? Oh, okay, she's in the kitchen. You know what I mean? But it's just like, it was just this whole idea
Yeah.
of family. But the other thing that it makes me, that especially as an ordained minister, that I think so many people forget, and I really just want to stress this to everyone, is that when you talk about scripture, you have to take into account that Moses is the one who brought the 10 commandments. He brought the things that people were supposed to do. These are the things that are right, wrong. Thou shalt not do these things. But the people didn't want to do those things. And so Jesus, being Jesus and who he was, he told the people, because they asked, okay, Jesus, out of everything we're supposed to do, what is the most important? And he told them, out of everything that you do, love your Lord with all your heart and love thy neighbor. And those are 2 simplest things that we can do. If you love your neighbor, you're not going to kill your neighbor. You're not going to sleep with your neighbor's wife. You're not going to steal, from your neighbor. You're not going to do all of these things if you truly love someone. So people need to remember that our default is love. You're supposed to love everyone. And if you're loving everyone, then all of these horrible things that we do to each and every one other people would not occur. So when you say family, yes, I had a huge sense of having my family, my extended family. I tell people to this day, I am so blessed because I've never had to bury an immediate family person. I buried both my grandparents. Okay, but grandparents get older, they pass away. I still have my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, almost all of my cousins. I really haven't had to bury anyone. So family means a lot to me, but I also know that you're my family. We're all a part of the
Right.
human race.
That's what I was looking for, to take it out. Like the
Yes.
bread and the fish. We're all connected.
Yes, exactly. And
Oh,
I truly believe that. I truly believe that what you do to the least of them, you do to all of us.
that's
And
right.
so if we choose higher and we choose wiser, then we will elevate as a people and as a society. Our thinking will change.
Right. We need to level up now. We need to know
Yes,
that we can level up together,
yes,
not just level the field, like level up
yes,
with each other.
yes, yes.
Because
And that's love.
and that's love. And love, as Isaiah has always said, love is the only answer, because love has always been the only question.
Yes. And then also compassion is the highest form of love.
Love.
To
Right.
truly be compassionate, to look out. That's one of the things that I do often. Often. I would, especially in Long Beach, we have a lot of weird situations, and I can look at someone and I will honestly say, there for the grace of God go I. There I go in that situation. And I have compassion for that person because who knows what could have happened to them, and it's just a situation that God prevented me from going through or protected me from going through. So it's just simply because of the grace of God that I'm not in that situation. I'm not sleeping on that street. I'm not strung out, with that situation. So it's just compassion and grace that allows us to make this world a better place. But until I have compassion for someone's situation, then I'm not being as much of service to mankind as I can be.
Right. And it hurts our insides.
Yes.
That's where a lot of disease comes from.
Oh, yes.
And that's this great service of the great creator right now to help us hard-handedly stop all that.
Yes.
Figure out that we're all connected no matter what.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to lead out with a prayer for the teachers from the Course in Miracles. It's one of my favorite pages in this whole book. I used to have the 3 books when it was really big. Now I have the 1 book. And this is on page 73, Manual for the Teacher. Now in all your doings, be you blessed. God turns to you for help to save the world. Teacher of God, his thanks he offers you. And all the world stands silent in the grace you bring from him. You are the son and daughter he loves, and is giving you to be the means through which his voice is heard around the world, to close all things of time, to end the sight of all things visible, and to undo all things that change. Through you is ushered in a world unseen, unheard, yet truly there. Holy are you, and in your light, the world reflects your holiness, for you are not alone and friendless. I give thanks for you and join your efforts on behalf of God, knowing they are on my behalf as well. And for all those who walk to God with me, I say thank you and amen.
Amen.
Thank you, my dear friend, for coming on with me today and honoring me with this. Would you like to give out your information, please, for the people to contact you?
Absolutely. So if you need assistance, if you have questions, not only in being an entrepreneur, but just with life in general, I always tell people, do not face the unknown alone. Ask Sharifah. And you can find me at AskSharifah.com.
Thank you, Sharifah. God bless you. My name is Amaya Victoria, folks. You can contact me at amayacenter.com or go to my website, amayacenter.com. I love all of you. And until next time, God bless, Godspeed, and remember, breathe.